Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Michael, stop! Stop! Please! You're hurting yourself! Stop!
Hey! Sit back!
Stop! Put that gun down!
All right, welcome back to another episode of The Pint. My name is John. With me today, a special guest that hasn't been on in a while, my wife, Lindsay. Lindsay, what's going on today?
Not too much.
Good. All right, so we're here to talk about a trash, tolerable, or treasure film. Lindsay was going to be on an episode we did recently with Larry and Laura, The Running Man. And Lindsay has a special job here at The Pint. She wrangles my dogs. My dogs are very loud. If you've ever been over the house, you know this. Very great dogs, so I love them both. Indy and Echo. Love them both. But Lindsay often has to go back into our back living room with the dogs while we record, because if not, the little bit you hear them on the show in the background would be a lot more. You would never be able to hear us talk. So we were doing the Running Man episode. She started on it with us, and the dogs just couldn't handle it. So we banished her. Larry was very rude about it. Larry was like, "Get her the fuck out of here."
Incredibly rude.
It was incredibly rude. And Laura wasn't super nice about it either. But anyway, and I knew you wanted to do an episode, so I had initially said to Larry, "Let's do a trash, tolerable, or treasure about Morbius." And he was like, let's do The Running Man instead, because, Morbius is new and it's all over podcasts right now. But I thought, we haven't done anything this new yet. And this movie is kind of an anomaly because it's got such hatred against it, and it's got such a trash reputation in the 4 or 5 months it's been out already. So I thought it would be interesting to check out a movie that's new on the trash docket and see what we thought about it. So, and I told you we were going to do this, but I told you not to research or look into it at all, because you're, to put it nicely, you're pop culture, what's the word? You're not up to snuff.
I am not up to snuff.
So you don't know what Morbius is. You don't know
No.
the scuttlebutt about Morbius or anything like that, right?
No, any kind of comic book politics or any of that, I have no idea. This is just a movie.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't know, like, all the fan hatred for this thing. So I thought that'd be really interesting to bring you on and talk to you about this, because it's not like a fanboy, coming on saying, "Oh, they ruined my Morbius." It's not that at all. So first things first, Morbius was made. It was actually filmed between February and May of 2019. So this thing's 3 years. It's been sitting for 3 years. You know why it's been sitting for 3 years, Len? COVID, absolutely. One of the reasons, yeah. It had a $75 million budget, and it was originally supposed to be released July 31st, 2020, which was right in the middle of what, Len? COVID, right. It was moved to March 19th, 2021, which was when we thought things were getting better, but things weren't getting better because of what? COVID, right. And then it was moved again to June 28th of January 28th of 2022, which is earlier this year. And things were opening up. This is the year movies have kind of opened up again. It was released, though, eventually on April 1st, which is kind of, I don't know if that's ironic or comical, that a movie that has such bad reputation is released on April Fool's Day. It was directed by a guy named Daniel Espinosa. He made a movie called Safe House that starred Denzel Washington, and a movie called Life that I liked a lot, actually. Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds, and it was a science fiction horror movie. Written by two guys that have written multiple things together. Burke Sharpless, I think that's a fake name, and Matt Sazama. They wrote the Power Rangers movie that came out a few years ago, and Gods of Egypt, which was that's another one that has a big trash reputation. So that was the writing crew. Morbius, the character of Morbius, Lynn, I'm going to give you a little comic book lesson here, is a Spider-Man villain. Initially a Spider-Man villain that over the course of the years became kind of an anti-hero, very similar to Venom, which they made some movies out of. He was introduced and created by Roy Thomas, big-time comic writer, and Gil Kane, big-time artist, back in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1. You have to say Volume 1 now because they're on like Volume 5. Number 101. So way back in the day. So Morbius, that make any sense to you at all?
I had no idea what to expect. You asked me not to research, so I had no clue what this movie was about.
Okay, so but I'm saying Morbius, like you never heard me, because I talk about comics sometimes, and I'm obviously always, as everybody who loves comics talks about Morbius a lot. You'd never heard me mentioning Morbius.
I've never heard anybody mentioning Morbius.
No, okay.
I kind of check out when the topic comes up. No offense.
No, it's okay. Morbius, the living vampire, is what he goes. Well, that's like kind of the title they gave him, and the origin is, what we see in the comic. What we see in the movie. It's essentially a guy living with vampire powers. So he's a vampire, but he's not a dead vampire, right? Let me ask you a question. Comic book movies themselves, I know you've gone with me to see them. We've rented them. You enjoy them to a point. There's some you probably like more than others. But like, if you're going to go with me, if I said to you, hey, let's go to the movies and see a comic book movie, are you hoping it's a character you've heard of? Or do you care?
I don't think that I care either way, because every movie seems new to me. Every movie about this type of subject seems new because I don't understand I don't understand the timeline. I don't understand how people are like heroes are related to anti-hero. I don't.
Right, but I mean, like, if I said to you, hey, let's go see Thor, right?
Right.
You know who Thor is. And then if I said, let's go see the Puck from Alpha Flight movie.
I would probably rather see Thor because I have a little bit of an idea who he is.
Okay. So it doesn't bother you, though, like, to watch a Morbius and not be worried about, like, comic continuity or anything, right?
That doesn't bother me at all. I was actually disappointed when the movie first started and I saw...
Many people were, apparently.
I saw helicopters. I was like, oh no, is this an army movie?
No, this is not an army movie. This is... are helicopters only in army movies? Has anybody else ever been in a helicopter but an army person?
No.
By that logic, it could have been like a local weather report movie. Like,
I was just worried that it was going to be military-based. And I do like some military-based movies, but I was a little bit like, oof.
So here's something else I had to explain to you, and let me ask you how you feel about this. At the end of the movie, we get the Michael Keaton cameo, and you didn't really understand that. You saw Spider-Man Homecoming with me once. I know you don't remember any of that stuff. I know how your brain works. But when I explained to you the idea behind the MCU and then the Sony verse, do you get what I'm saying there? So for the listeners out there, there's the MCU. This is the Marvel movies that we have, whatever, 25 of them now, 29, whatever the fuck it is. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Ant-Man, all that stuff. But then there are other companies out there that own the rights to Marvel films or to Marvel characters. And Spider-Man is owned by Sony at the time. And Sony had a deal with the MCU or with Kevin Feige that you could make a Spider-Man movie in the MCU, but these characters you couldn't touch, which I'm sure he's not hurt by. You can't touch Morbius or Silver Sable or anything like that. So the Sony verse, because they know that they can kind of, I guess, still make money, they're making all these movies based on like these secondary characters and super tertiary, like Morbius is one of them. They're going to do a Silver Sable film, which again, this is a D-level Marvel character. Kraven the Hunter, who's a little bit bigger, but none of these characters make sense without Spider-Man. But did you understand what I was explaining to you about how in Spider-Man No Way Home, the universe is now, along with in the real world, business dealings making everything able to happen, they can now cross over.
I understood what you were saying. I guess I kind of relate it to Disney and Universal. Universal had some of that copyright, right? And then Disney owns some of it now.
On that, I'm going to feign I don't know. Disney owns everything, so it's hard. You know, like, I don't know about Universal. They own Star Wars. They own the Muppets. They own just about everything. So do you understand the fact that there's these Marvel movies that feature Marvel characters, but they don't take place in the same fictional universe? Do you get that?
I do.
Okay, because I get how it's hard to get.
Yeah, it's weird.
Right. Like the X-Men movies. I know you've probably never seen any of them, but Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Those don't take place in the MCU. Those take place in the Fox mutant universe, which now is going to be weaving its way into the MCU.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know that I would ever see a movie and know exactly where they're from.
Okay. So if you did know, let me ask you this. If you did know that Morbius is a Spider-Man character, and you went to see this in the theaters, but you didn't know all of the history of that. Let's say you're a very casual fan, but you know Morbius is a Spider-Man character. Are you irritated that you're going to a Spider-Man character film that, like, you find out in the end there's no Spider-Man in it or references related to Spider-Man? Although there is one in this movie, but...
I think because the title is Morbius, like, I don't know if the expectation should be that Spider-Man is there. It's obviously about Morbius.
Right.
Or... Oops, sorry, I did.
What are you doing over there?
I'm gesturing, because I gesture when I talk.
Gesture it over here.
I'll use T-Rex gesture.
Yeah, you shorten your arms, for fuck's sake.
I guess they would have named it something to do with Spider-Man if Spider-Man was going to be in it, because there's a lot more fans for him.
Yeah.
So I think if you're upset that it's about Morbius and the title of the movie is Morbius, then you kind of set yourself up.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I know that the way I asked that question was extremely convoluted. I apologize to the listeners out there. I was just trying to get, like, a layperson's idea if they understand, like, these universes don't cross over. Let's talk about the cast of this movie.
My God, it's full of stars.
All right. First up is Jared Leto, whatever he goes by. He's Dr. Michael Morbius. You know him from Blade Runner 2049, Fight Club. He's a very divisive person in real life. He's a what do you call that? Method actor. So I was reading a story about this movie, and he's a method actor. So, like, bathroom breaks for him would take like 45 minutes because he insisted on using his crutches and walking. You know, Michael Morbius, I'll explain the character real quick, is a young boy who essentially has been dying his whole life. He has a rare blood disease. He becomes a doctor. He's going to figure out how to basically blend human DNA and vampire bat DNA, and it's going to cure him and his I guess you could say, like, his best friend / brother figure. But what do you think of the idea of Jared Leto doing stuff like that? Like, a bathroom break, and then he's got to, like, use the crutches and the limp that he has in the movie to go to the bathroom. Is that annoying to you?
I would find that very annoying, depending on my paycheck. If I was getting paid really well and he's going to take 45 minutes, then I might check Facebook and just have myself a little break. But it does sound incredibly annoying. Okay.
Jared Leto, do you like the long-haired Jared Leto? Is that a thing for you?
I don't think it's a thing for me. He is a good-looking guy. There's a part where he has his shirt off. And I was thinking about how many hours he had to spend in the gym just for that, like, 20 seconds where his shirt was removed.
Yeah.
And I felt badly for him.
Why badly? He's getting paid millions of dollars.
Because it's so much work. Like, all those cheeseburgers he missed.
Yeah,
for, like, 5 seconds in a movie.
Millions of dollars for this movie.
I know.
I'd have to look it up. I don't know his pay, but it's not. It wasn't like. It wasn't like, $16 minimum wage. It's not like he's like the kid flipping burgers at McDonald's and they're like, oh, by the way, you got to go get buff every night and you can't eat any of this food here.
I think that if I was Jared Leto and I obviously exercised as much as he did for this role, I would try to have my shirt off more. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, he does have his shirt off another scene, I think, later on. But you're right. There's not a lot of shirt off stuff. Okay. So that's Jared Leto. Matt Smith plays Lucian / Milo.
Lucian is his brother figure, his best friend from youth. He also suffers from the same debilitating disease, but I thought it was weird that, like, when he introduces himself to him, he's like, I'm Lucian, and immediately Morbius is like, no, you're Milo. And because that's a thing he does as a kid. He has all these different bedmates. He just names him Milo. And then this guy just, like, goes by Milo for the rest of his life. Like, you just took my identity away. That wasn't fair.
Yeah, I didn't think that was cool.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, you need to be your own person. And
No, he's just fucking Milo. You might know Matt Smith from, he was the 11th Doctor in Doctor Who. And also, great horror movie on Netflix. I recommend it to everybody if you've never seen it. It's called His House. He's in that. He has a scene, again, very much like, he has a scene with a shirt off in one scene where he's obviously built pretty well. And it's only one scene.
it is, and he's doing some strange dance.
He is. He's dancing around, yeah.
Yeah.
You said this character reminded you of who? You were talking before.
It reminds me of the Joker. There's a scene where they're fighting, well, Milo's fighting off cops. Morbius is running away, but after he kills all the cops, he does kind of like a dance that was reminiscent of the Joker. And then as he follows Michael, he starts calling out his name very Joker-like.
Right.
And you saw a picture in Milo's house, and it was like a creepy clown on the wall.
It looked like a John Wayne Gacy painting. I'm not sure if it was. I'll have to look that up after, but...
So not understanding who's from where in the universes, I wondered if he was supposed to be like the Joker, but the Joker is actually part of a DCU sense, so it's not even...
Yeah, there's no crossing there.
Right.
That's two separate companies, totally. Yeah, I don't know. This character here, I think I read, is an original. I think he was supposed to at one point be a established Marvel character named Hunger. Again, not one that I'm super familiar with, but I guess they went a different way. All right, so that's Matt Smith. Adria Arjona plays Dr. Martine Bancroft. She was in, let's see, she's going to be in Andor, the new Star Wars show coming out in the end of August, and she was in Pacific Rim 2. She is, Dr. Michael Morbius is, again, she's his, another doctor that's working with him, a research scientist, and of course, there's no way they can just, like, be platonic. They have to jam in, like, a love story. It makes no sense whatsoever.
He still found her attractive, even though she was wearing all denim.
All denim all the time. Yeah. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot because you said that you thought Leto was a good-looking guy. How did she look in jeans? 0 to 5, what would you give her in jeans?
Probably a 5. I mean, they pointed out the jeans, looking for the woman in the jeans. And
Yeah.
I was like, there's a lot of women in jeans, but I think more people would notice her in jeans than just a typical person.
You think the Fed said that because he was like, we know people were looking at her ass.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see, like, the hot Latina running through here in a pair of jeans is what he probably would have said. Jared Harris, Dr. Nicholas from The Expanse, a couple TV shows for The Expanse, Fringe as well. He's a great actor. He's wasted in this movie. He's the doctor that, like, raises them. But, like, he's in the beginning of the movie, and then he's in the end of the movie, and he gets killed. And that's really it. So they had a really good actor that they really didn't need a really good actor for. Tyrese Gibson, Agent Stroud, you know him from, he was in Baby Boy, a John Singleton movie years ago. And, I mean, honestly, everybody knows him. He's from the Fast and the Furious franchise. He's not a great actor. He's fine, but, like, he's not really necessary in this movie. You didn't have to have a name, but, whatever. You give Tyrese his due. And then the last one I have is Michael Keaton is in the end credits. There's 2 end credit scenes as Adrian Toomes, a.k.a. the Vulture, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Beetlejuice. So he shows up. This movie was filmed in Pinewood Studios, which is located in Iverheath, Buckinghamshire, England, and also filmed in Manchester. There's scenes that are supposed to be in New York City that I didn't feel like, I didn't pay that much attention, but it doesn't look so much like New York. But the one that really got me was the scene in the subway. Totally does not look like a New York subway.
It was way too clean.
Way too clean, way too colorful. It looked like a underground. Well, not that I've ever been there, but like from just seeing movies and stuff, it was fairly obvious that it was not. All right, let's talk about the box office.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
All right, so this movie came out on April 1st, 2022, as I mentioned. And here's the weekend numbers for the top 5 movies, April 1st through April 3rd. Number 5, a movie I have no fucking clue what this is. It sounds like it's probably an anime. Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie. It came in 2.0 million. And it was out for the 3rd week. Number 4, Uncharted. Ironically, I guess, starring Tom Holland, who's actually Spider-Man. It was out for its 7th week, 3.7 million. Number 3, The Batman, with the most current one with, what the fuck's his name?
Patterson?
Robert Pattinson, yeah. It had been out for 5 weeks, $11 million. Number 2, The Lost City, which I believe is the Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum thing. 2 weeks, $15 million. And number 1, for a movie that really gets a lot of shit, Morbius. It came in number 1, $39 million. Did our dog fart? You're making a face like our dog farted.
It's awful.
Yeah. Our dog, is Echo?
Yeah, it almost smells like he ate a pound of salami.
Yeah, he probably did when we weren't looking. You were making a lot of weird faces over there. So that's the box office for that. Now here's an interesting factoid. This movie was released and ended up not doing so great. I mentioned it before. The budget of this thing was $75 million. Domestically in America, it made $74 million. So it missed out the mark by $1 million. But that's only saying so much because there's also advertising and all this other stuff. Now, worldwide, it's made $164 million. Now, again, I don't know what its advertising budget was, but seems like it made some money. This thing hit like its stride on the internet with a ton of memes. Okay? So after it came out, it became very popular to make memes about Morbius. And one of the biggest ones is, so again, explaining this to you, some of the listeners will know what I'm talking about. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, when they would power up and, they'd have to fight at the end, they'd always say, it's morphin' time. The biggest meme and GIF that you see out there for Morbius is, it's Morbin time. And it's supposed to be his catchphrase for when he turns to a vampire. It took over the internet. To the point where Sony or Columbia, the company that put this out, I don't know if they got the vibe that people had wanted to see this based on the popularity of this internet meme, but they re-released it on June 2nd. So, it had been out for 2 months. It probably had already died out and gone away. And June 2nd, they said, Morbius is coming out this weekend again. It failed fucking miserably. They relaunched it into 1,037 theaters the weekend of June 2nd. And it made $300,000 that weekend. $289 a theater. So again, they were trying to make something out of nothing, and now it just kind of solidifies the trash reputation to people, right? Do you think that was a smart idea? Do you think taking some internet, even if it's bad heat, you think maybe throwing it out there and saying, hey, give it another chance, or hey, maybe we'll put it out there and people will go see it ironically in droves. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's worth checking, trying it. The movie's already made. I don't know how much it costs to run it at movie theaters, but why not, see if it works and make some more money. Right.
It's worth a shot. How's the dog fart smell over there?
It's dissipating.
Okay, good.
That was one of his grosser ones.
He's a little, he likes to fart. He certainly does. Rotten Tomatoes. Let's talk about Rotten Tomatoes real quick.
It was a run by fruiting.
Do you know how Rotten Tomatoes works?
I know it's a rating system.
Okay, I'm going to explain to you how it works exactly. We talk about this in every show anyway. So there's Rotten Tomatoes, critic score, and then they have what they call the audience score. Critic score and audience score. If 60% of the critic reviews are positive, it gets a red tomato. If less than 60%, 59 and below, it gets a green splat. Okay? But that's critics. That's movie reviewers and newspapers. A lot of podcasts and, bloggers and stuff like that become affiliates of Rotten Tomatoes. So that's critical. Audience is if 60% of the audience scores at 3.5 or higher. So I'm assuming maybe they're going by, maybe polls, or maybe comments. It gets a full popcorn bucket. If less than 60%, so 59 or below, give it 3.5 or lower than 3.5, so 3.0 or lower, it gets a knocked over, shitty looking popcorn bucket. All right. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think, just out of curiosity, I'm going to give you a chance to guess both of these. What do you think the critical number is?
I'm going to go with a red tomato.
That would be good.
Yes.
Okay. What do you have an idea of what the percentage is?
Well, you said 60% or higher, so I'm going to go with 63.
All right. I suck at math. Subtract a lot from that. It's 16%.
Oh, wow.
So this thing
That's embarrassing.
This thing got creamed. We did one. I don't remember what movie it was that has 0.
Wow.
There's several movies that have 0. We did one. It might have been the Rollerblade remake, which was such a piece of shit. All right, audience. So now you know that critical people or people that are critics think differently than the audience, right? They're going in to take a movie apart and to this made sense and that made sense. And an audience is generally going in to have fun and enjoy a movie. So what do you think the audience score is?
Knocked over popcorn bucket, maybe 23%.
Add to it.
I'm so wrong.
71%.
Oh, wow.
So you're almost backwards.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
In your head, do you think that you see that way, that like critics who are going into a movie to kind of tear these things apart and, you know, write their 10 paragraph, you know, or 8 paragraph stories about these films and their reviews are going to look at it differently than an audience member that might just be going in, you know, after going out to eat with, the, you know, a first date or something?
Yeah, I think they're going to be more critical, especially after you mentioned that, you know, people are disappointed that Spider-Man's not in it. And it's just Morbius, even though the title's Morbius.
Well, I didn't mean earlier when I said that the people were going to be, I guess, disappointed. I just thought maybe like people who don't know about these universes being different, you know?
Yeah, I think if you go in and you're not understanding the universes, you're going to just take it for a movie and you're there to see a movie where there's expectations if you're a fan.
Right. All right, that's fair. Okay. All right, so I think we're getting to that point where we're going to talk about our likes and dislikes of this movie.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
All right, I'm going to let you go first. Why don't you give me your first like? What was something you enjoyed about Morbius?
I like the beginning that established them as friends, and that they remained friends. There was something just popped into my head now where they were talking, I think at the park, about what Michael was working on. And Milo said that he'd be on his side until the day he died. And I thought it was very strange that he didn't say we died or I died or one of us died, but he said you die.
Right.
So I don't know if that was like some kind of foreboding.
My first like is I actually like Matt Smith a lot. I like Matt Smith anyways. I was a Doctor Who watcher. I haven't watched in years, but he was him and David Tennant were probably my two favorites. And he's just good. He's good in this. I mean, he honestly, yes, he's over the top and he's playing like kind of your very typical, you know, comic book villain. You know, weak. One of the ones that's like the weak guy who gets power and suddenly, you know, can't handle it. But I enjoy him every time he's on the screen. Jared Leto's not going to be on my dislikes in this movie, but the dynamic, and I understand they're two different characters, but Jared Leto is like a glass of water in this movie. He's very plain, you know, he's just very straightforward. There's no dynamic to him at all. But Matt Smith is very dynamic, which again, you kind of said the Joker thing. It's kind of the same, you know. Batman is just this fucking, you know, very straightforward, you know, kind of guy, you know. I mean, obviously he's wearing tights and dressing up like a bat, but like he's not flamboyant in any way. And that's the same thing with Morbius. He's kind of there. And to offset that, and essentially to offset all the characters in this movie, because really all the characters in this movie are kind of just like droll, you know, like I am the doctor who you will fall in love with. I'm Morbius. Do you have a second like?
I think the rest of my likes are kind of based on some ridiculousness. Just like when Morbius flies around, his color that's behind him is purple. I like purple.
Yeah.
But I think sort of to your point of everybody being just a glass of water, it's hard to find a lot of likes in this. I have a lot of things that I don't understand. So there's not even things that I dislike, just things that I don't get. And I wrote down to discuss if we have time.
Well, go ahead. Let's take this second to talk about that.
So Milo, and I agree that he was definitely the standout character as far as somebody being a little bit more extreme. But I just don't understand how he went from a cool guy to a dickhead just based on his ability.
Well, I don't think, I think it was a case of he's a, I think that was important when they showed him getting bullied in the beginning, which, by the way, who the fuck, like, I know there's bullies out there, and I know bullies do terrible things, but, like, they beat up a kid in crutches, like, these fucking kids, man.
Yeah, I think that the guy should have let him beat up the
guy
a little bit longer.
I was actually hoping when the doctor saves him, he would have just stabbed those kids to death in their fucking eyes. I think he was. I think because of his situation and the fact that he wasn't Morbius, who was actively trying to find a cure, so he was very driven. Milo's just been dying. Like, they've been dying for, since he says we've been dying our whole lives, essentially. So he's just been waiting his whole life. So he's bitter. He's a bitter guy, and now he is, like, they make it a point, like Morbius says at one point, he's like, I feel better today than I've felt in my entire life. And it's the same for Milo, except he's fucking, like, they show him, he's taking it to, like, the next extreme. He's thrill killing. He goes out, and I actually like the scene where he goes out and tries to pick up the woman, because he's not, like, other than those guys butting in, he seems like he's genuinely trying to, like, use his newfound power to pick up a woman for the first time in his life. So, yeah, I think it's just that he is this character that's been beaten down and just can't handle, like, suddenly being not even just normal, above normal.
Yeah, I suppose that's really sad then. Okay, so the bats obviously have a connection with Morbius.
Right.
And I just feel like the bats would be mad. Like, if I'm researching bats and I'm taking your friends out and I'm pegging them to a board and then dissecting them and taking pieces out, I don't think I want to be your friend.
Well, that's a dislike then.
But I guess it's on my I don't get it, because it just doesn't...
It's a dislike. We'll retroactively go ahead and forward that to your dislikes.
All right.
Because that's a dislike. It doesn't make sense. You're right. Why are these bats, like, they're connected to him, yet he's doing these terrible things, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's fair. I also thought the same thing with the bats. Like, at the end, when he sends the bats, like, to essentially kill Milo, Milo's got the same stuff in him. So why are the bats... Unless the bats just know, like, Morbius good, Milo bad, you would think that they would just, like, be like, oh shit, this guy's just like the other guy. But they're not.
Right.
All right, what else don't you understand?
We talked about this a little bit, but there's that scene in the diner with Morbius, and he follows the meth heads to their lab. I still don't get what he was doing there.
Yeah, when the movie completed, I didn't either. He hears them talking about they have a lab. He follows them back, and he makes like a piece of machinery. Now, I didn't fall asleep during this movie, but he ends up going back to his main lab repeatedly in the movie. So I don't know if it was a piece of machinery that he used there, and you and I didn't see the bridge, but yeah, it almost seems like he made a centrifuge.
Was it for the ferritin injection?
Maybe, but he had a centrifuge at his lab.
Yeah, I just don't get that part.
I don't know. You're right. Someone out there knows. Someone out there is yelling at their car stereo right now going, oh, these two fucking idiots. Pay attention to Morbius, you fucking idiots.
And then there's a rooftop scene before the cops get him the first time, capture Morbius.
Yeah.
Where he's stuck in some sort of...
No, I know what you're going to say. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, he's stuck in some sort of airstream. And I don't get that either. It's
how... The same thing happens in the subway, and he stops and he figures it out. It's how he flies.
But when he flies, he's getting away. So he knows how to work the air to get away. I thought the movie was trying to imply that the cop was able to... I thought the cop was special, too.
No, the cop catches him. The air thing happens. How it happens, don't ask me. But the air thing happens, and Morbius can ride the airwaves. So he doesn't do it in that scene. He doesn't jump off the building because he's not put it together yet. That's why the cop's able to catch him. When he's fighting Milo in the subway tunnel and he feels it happen again, they have that whole kind of slowed down scene. And that's him figuring out that, like, I can drift off of this air. Now, again, if you're going to ask me where the air came from on the building, I don't know. Maybe it was just like a gust of wind or something. But yeah, that's what it is.
It just seemed like the rooftop wind was keeping him there. Like, it captured him rather than him being able to get away.
I kind of get what you're saying, but I think it was partially because he didn't jump. I think it was like he got up and it was pushing him, and he was like fighting against it with his Morbius like strength. I'm Morbius, I'm strong. He doesn't talk like that at all.
No, not at all. You just gave more effort than he did.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the other doctor, Martine?
Bancroft, yeah.
Denim jeans lady.
Yeah.
She wakes up and that's it. Like,
right, that's called that's called they plan on a sequel.
But who is she gonna be?
She's a vampire. I don't know if she's probably maybe an established Marvel character I don't know of. But yeah, she bit his lip and drank his blood.
Oh, I saw that, and it made sense that she woke up. I just didn't know if it was related to another D-level character.
It very well might be. I'm going to be totally honest with you and tell you that Morbius is not like my strong suit. I have read stuff with Morbius in it, but I'm not like, Dr. Michael Morbius was, I have no fucking idea. I'm not. He was.
Is that what Morbius fans sound like?
Dr. John, I think you should know that Dr. Michael Morbius is a very serious character. IGN recently ranked him as 19th in the all-time Spider-Man villains, and that's actually true. There was a poll. He was 19th in Spider-Man villains. So that was a lot there. So let's go to the dislikes, okay? Let's talk about what we disliked. I'm going to start. First thing I dislike about this movie, and Joey from So Wizard Podcast, show I listen to all the time, he kind of says it a lot. He says, like, certain movies are the best comic book movie of 2002. And that's kind of true of this. It feels like there's no reason that this movie should have come out in 2022. It's not spectacular, and that's not a Spider-Man joke either. It's not, there's nothing special about it, right? This could have been delayed due to COVID and then just released on a streaming service, and it might have gotten less hate than like forcing it out into theaters. And in that, I'll add into that in my dislikes is that all the special effects in this movie seem like they're drawn from a fucking video game or from movie cliches. We get bullet time multiple times. We get a scene early on a boat where it's from Morbius's point of view, where he's like catching guys and killing them. He does echolocation, and they visualize it with like this kind of pulse and light that goes through the city that looks like something out of a fucking video game completely. And then along with those dislikes is I just wish that the vampire stuff was not CGI. Like, I wish that like when their faces changed, it was like the Lost Boys. It was just like prosthetics, maybe a fucked up forehead and some fangs. Every time they changed, it just didn't work for me. Like, it actively looked bad in a lot of parts. CGI isn't great in this movie. All right, what was the dislike you have?
The only dislike I really had was the diner. I think I'm still kind of thinking about and processing the movie. I agree with everything you just said, though, especially on Milo. The CGI for when he changes to a vampire was just very extreme.
I thought it was extreme. I didn't mind that, but I did mind, like, there were scenes where Milo's going in and out, and Morbius does the same thing. I thought that didn't look great. There was a couple of shots where they show them full on, and it was okay, but it's the best CG of 2002. It isn't like today's standard, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right, if I had to go with another dislike, I would just say the idea of this movie, the tone of it, I wish that it was a horror movie. Just make it a horror movie. Like, don't make it like this movie is such a standard bearer superhero plot, origin, introduce the bad guy. The bad guy's got to be someone that the hero knows or is like really close friends with. And then generic fight at the end, which this one is replete with. It has like this completely like boring generic fight where they're fighting through like, the streets of New York City and up and down through the ground. It just doesn't work. If you had taken this character and maybe gotten a different, and the director made Life, which I really enjoyed a lot and could be considered a horror movie. But if you just made it a little bit darker, but I get why they didn't, because they wanted more people, I think, to be able to put this into the same, oeuvre of the MCU, and even though it's not part of it, have that feel, because now obviously they can move Morbius in and out if they want to. I don't know. So that's my second dislike. Do you have another dislike?
I don't. And again, I agree with what you just said. It's thinking back on the movie, there's nothing, I can't think of anything that really blew my mind in one way or another. It just seemed kind of vanilla in a way. And maybe that's why I'm having a hard time coming up with dislikes, because it just was generally neutral and like there was nothing extreme.
Right. Triple T.
Have you gentlemen seen your midterm grades yet?
Well, they're not posted yet, sir.
I've seen them.
Is this a trash? Is this tolerable? Or is it a treasure? I'll go first. Hear those birds in the background. We're recording this episode in like the late afternoon, which we never record during. So there's a little more traffic, and there's a baby bird out there, maybe being attacked by a fucking cat or something. I don't know what's going on. Lindsay's like, I hope not.
No, I saw it. They're very happy because the neighbor put out new food.
Oh, okay. All right, so I am going to give this movie, I think this movie has a bad rep. It's not trash. It's not trash. It's tolerable. And again, we have to define tolerable as, if this is on in the background, I'm not mad at it. I'm not buying this on Blu-ray. I'm not ever going to put my effort into really watching it again. But, like, I think that sometimes, people like to gang up on things, much like those young boys ganged up on a young Milo, and they have fun with it. And I get it. It's, it could be fun. It's Morbin time is hilarious. Jared Leto is kind of a divisive person as an actor. He's been accused of a lot of weird things lately, like, he's a cult leader supposedly and all this stuff. And I think people jump on that stuff, but this movie's totally tolerable. It is fucking plain Jane, generic, again, comic book movie from 2002. It doesn't really belong in a world where it seems like comic book movies are trying to exceed the norm. Like you see, whether it's going to be good or not, you see the trailers for Thor: Love and Thunder. That looks like a very dynamic comic book movie, heavily comedic, probably some really great action sequences and all that stuff. This movie doesn't have any of that. The CGI is okay. The tone is the cast is so yeah, it's tolerable. I can't call it trash. I didn't hate it. I expected to hate it because everybody hates this fucking thing, or at least most people do. But I don't hate it. It's not trash. Should it exist? Probably not, but it's not. It's just so fucking plain. What do you think? What do you give it?
I think it was tolerable. I don't think it's trash. I didn't dislike it. I didn't like it. I throw it on while making my grocery list for the week, and it's like the vanilla and Neapolitan ice cream.
It's there, right?
Yeah, and you don't dislike it. You're glad it's there, but you also wouldn't miss it if it wasn't.
But you would miss it in Neapolitan, wouldn't you? I would. If you had just chocolate and strawberry?
I think it'd be more about the sprinkles when it came to the vanilla.
All right, that's fair. All right, so that's it for Morbius. This has been episode 248. I don't get to say that a lot, but we recorded this and we're able to I know when I'm putting it out. So you can check us out at The Pint Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and on Facebook, The Pint Podcast. And Lindsay, she'll be back. We'll do some more episodes. Like to record some more stuff with you.
I love that.
Think it's something you want to talk about, and
I should make you watch some chick flicks or something.
Maybe one.
Manster would be into it.
Yeah, maybe Manster. We'll have him over, and we'll drink and watch a chick flick.
Oh, Scary Larry might want to watch My Little Pony or something.
I don't think so. I don't think he'd be into that, or at least admit to it. All right, so this is The Pint, and like I said, check us out in those places. You can find us on all different podcatchers. We come out weekly, and don't forget Patreon, $2.50 a month. Get you all kinds of new stuff. Just today, I uploaded our 12th episode where me and John from Shocking Things podcast talk about 1982's Battle Truck. That's right. Oh, and if you are interested in checking out the film we talked about today, Morbius, I should have said this at the beginning. This is late, but you can go check it out now. It's like $5.99 to rent on Amazon Prime. That's what I did. So, all right, see ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.